It's lights out and away we go! What's up, everyone, and welcome back to GTA UK F1 podcast. I'm joined by my co-host, David and Alan.
Hello.
I want his helmet.
Hey, everyone.
So, yeah, let's discuss the Imola Grand Prix weekend.
Italy Mark 1, as I'm going to refer to it.
Yeah, and obviously whatever unfolded there. And obviously, just a quick note before we actually do get into this. Remember where you get your remember where you get your podcast from. Obviously you can get this one, obviously Amazon, RSS, through there, Spotify, but apart from Apple at the moment, we're still losing out on that front. But you know,
We're not willing to pay them, so...
no, I'm not not willing to pay that fee. So yeah, Imola.
What
I mean,
can you say?
It was nice to see it back at Imola, obviously, after, was it last year, and when they had all
Last
the
year, when
floods.
it got flooded out right beforehand, so it's good to see the area in sunshine. I mean, they kept threatening rain and thunderstorms, but nothing
Yeah,
nothing developed.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'll bring this bit up now. I mean, obviously, it was the anniversary. Was it 30 years?
30 years,
30
when it's just
years.
and Roland Ratzenberger.
Yeah.
Mustn't forget that one.
And obviously, the tributes that had been going on throughout there. Obviously, they'd had stuff at the the paddock and stuff, weren't there?
Yeah, because they had
Paintings.
paintings, they had Vettel driving
His car.
Senna's car, which actually Vettel owns.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It's Vettel.
Vettel owns a few. He owns one of he owns Mansell's Red 5 as well, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yes.
Vettel has quite a nice car collection, it has to be said.
And obviously, they did the track run as well, all wearing yellow.
Yeah, so one or two had the helmets that
In Senna's
classic yellow and green
colours. Yep. And then, like I say, they didn't really sort of make it too gloomy.
They didn't go OT2 with it.
Yeah, they didn't go gloomy and all that lot with it.
Well, if anything, you're marking the passing, but you're also trying to celebrate what was, to most people, the greatest F1 driver.
If not still is.
That wasn't implying anything different, I was just saying,
No, but I'm just saying, if not still is one of the greatest F1 drivers.
Well, yeah, you think the generation nowadays, they weren't around when Senna was driving.
No.
But they still look up to him.
I always hate trying to compare across generations because it's such a difficult thing to do.
Oh, yeah.
Because the cars were so different.
Well, yeah, you think back in them days, I mean, Senna's first driving, they were using a H-shifted gearbox.
Using a proper clutch, no traction control, no ABS, no.
Yeah.
Not a fraction of the aero that the cars have these days.
And it was down to driver.
Oh, yeah.
Not down to computers or anything like that. It was down to the driver.
I mean, did you? I don't know if you saw Gasly and.
I did, yes.
Gasly and what's her face? Never remember her name.
Naomi.
Yeah, at Silverstone.
In his very first F1 car he ever drove.
Yeah.
Wasn't it the one he got his first win in?
Could be as well, yeah. But that was his very first F1 car he ever drove.
Yeah.
And obviously Martin Brundle popped along as well.
Hmm.
But just hearing it,
It sounded nice.
Oh, they did have that because that'd be the early turbo era, wouldn't it?
So, well, you're going back to early 80s.
Yeah, you'd be back in the days when they were like 1500 horsepower turbos. They either won or blew up, and quite often blew up.
Yeah, but it was like when Vettel was out in his car. You miss that sound. The sound of.
Oh yeah, the old screaming engines. We all look fondly on the old V10s and that.
It was also the design of them, double rear wings.
There's no DRS and
they were small.
Oh yeah, they were tiny compared to what we've got now.
Yeah.
But safety was a lot lapser back then to what it is now.
Oh yeah.
And it's just it was just nice to see and hear. And I think it, like I say, from what I saw of when Vettel was driving, I think it was quite emotional for him to do it.
Well, that was it, because at the end, he'd done a parade lap and he was actually holding not just Brazilian flag for Senna, but he was also had a Austrian flag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody remembers that day for Senna, but there was actually 2 deaths that day.
Hey, Roland Ratzenberger.
Yeah.
Ratzenberger was the day before.
Yeah, that was it. It was the day before. So, it was a tough weekend for a lot of drivers.
Oh yeah, he was tough times back then. He was a real. We take it for granted now that F1 is as safe as it is.
Yeah.
Unless you've been the man on fire.
No, but don't forget, he walked away from that car.
Yeah, but surprisingly.
He walked away from that car. That's what we're saying. It's not like.
Oh yeah, I know.
I say obviously Jules was the last loss we've had at a race.
Hmm.
And that was a good few years ago at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, how much of the weekend did you guys?
I saw
race.
I saw FP1 and FP2 in a rarity. For me.
Well, if that's the case, you can lead the FP1 and FP2 discussions then.
Over to you, sir.
Let me refer back to the notes somebody made. To be honest, the only thing that stood out to me from both practice sessions was the struggles that Red Bull appeared to be having.
Yeah.
Especially FP1, the cars seem now. I always take this with a pinch of salt these days. Because Red Bull are good at coming in on Friday saying, oh, our car's a piece of shit, and then buggering off down the road come Saturday afternoon.
Well, yeah.
But they seem to really. Did they say something like there's like 13 hours of simulator time between the practice sessions or something?
Who was on the simulator?
I couldn't tell
I
you.
think it was Buemi.
It was Buemi.
Can we also throw a sideline here to Max for doing the 24-hour of Nürburgring sim race between sessions?
The same one that Broadbent was in as well.
Yeah. The guy finishes qualifying, goes back to his hotel room, boots up the sim rig and does a 24-hour sim race. Like, the guy's a machine.
And actually got told off for doing it because he didn't get permission from Red Bull.
I think his car was. I don't know if he actually won it, but from what I saw, I think he was doing quite well as well.
The team did. He did. He got 2. That's why the race engineer at the end said that's 2, because he got obviously that, and then he also got the Nürburgring one.
Oh, fair dues.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, I don't think Max really kind of gives a shit if he got told off for doing it. It's like...
No, I think he just enjoys doing it, doesn't he? But...
He's a sim racer. It's like, I bet if Norris could have done it, I bet Norris would have done it. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I just find it hilarious that, like, you know, in the middle of a race weekend, he's like booing up the sim rig.
Yeah.
It was all weekend. Yeah, it was fine. I went on to the sim, we won a race and I went and actually done a race and won.
Hmm.
Yeah, won 2 races in the space of a day.
And it was, apart from obviously the weirdness of, I mean, Albon's car hitting the one of the, see, I can't remember the bloody track corner names.
The Aqua Minerale is that the one before it?
It was the chicane.
Yeah. I think Aqua Minerale is the one before. Aqua Minerale is the hairpin at the bottom. So.
Yeah. But, you know, it was like, Haas seemed to have their struggles. Sauber was just, seemed like they were nowhere.
Valianti Alta, it was called.
Oh, right, okay.
Varianti, sorry. When I actually put the map big enough to see.
And it's just, it's like the Ferraris looked on it.
The Ferraris have really come. The upgrade package at the beginning. I mean, obviously we saw McLaren's upgrade package in Miami work well.
Oh, didn't it?
Now Ferrari were always going to turn the wick up here because it's the home. It's home, you know. It's where they bring all the big sponsors and everything. Even though, as I said at the time, Petro Ferrari was actually at Miami.
Yeah.
But you know, in Italy, Ferrari, that's when all the main sponsors are going to be brought in. And given the Italian hospitality, of course the drivers are told, look, put on a good show.
Yeah. I mean, even in practice one, Yuki, gotta give credit to Yuki. He was on it.
I'm going to say something's been lit under Yuki's arse, basically.
I think we've had this discussion before, me and you, Chris, and I think we've come to the same conclusion that I think he realises that his seat isn't as safe as maybe he'd like it to be.
No.
Is the best way I can word it.
But if that's what it takes to get him to drive like he's been driving, fair enough.
Alpine's it seemed to sort of improved in bloody first practice, but then I mean FP2. Okay, speaking of Yuki, I'll go back to Yuki actually. Yuki obviously got his reprimand for doing the practice start down at the end of the pit lane.
Yeah, he went to the wrong place or something. I saw that.
Yeah, he was supposed to go back higher up before the actual pit exit line. So he got reprimanded for that. But it just, even, I don't know. Like we said, we don't take practice for gospel-y. Mercedes looked good in FP2.
Oh, you don't know what kind of programs are being run though. Fuel loads programs.
I mean, McLaren were obviously going to see what they were going to be able to achieve. And yet again, the Red Bulls, both of the Red Bulls in FP2 were lower than what they were in FP1. Obviously, they were saying about the wind as well, the wind playing a bit of a factor as well.
Yeah, towards the end of the lap, wasn't it? Coming around the last couple
of corners, yeah, the wind was blowing onto the back of the cars, which can throw them off.
Yeah.
You know, like where, even weirdly enough, like Hulkenberg, last in the first session, had a bit of a point to prove in the second session. You know, he was within the top 10 on the timing sheets.
The Haas really weird car in this year. 'Cause it
Mm.
either turns up and does amazing, or it does awful. There seems to be no middle ground.
Yeah, but considering that was Nico's first time driving around Imola.
Yeah, he's somehow managed to never drive at that circuit before, which is quite
Yeah.
impressive, considering the career he's had and the amount of different cars and things he's driven.
Exactly. But I couldn't understand, but maybe it was also track temps and stuff like that.
Like I say, I always go by, you don't know what programs different cars are running.
I mean, unfortunately, FP3, I ended up missing.
Yeah,
I got caught part of it, but I missed the Alonso crash, so I don't exactly know what happened there.
He ended up in the wall, didn't he? It's the same with the Perez. And Perez caught it at the hairpin again, chicane again, didn't he?
Yeah, but he went
Was
literally.
it Aquamin
airborne.
Rally where Alonso went off? I forget exactly which.
I can't remember. Like I said, I didn't. I saw a replay, but did you see FP3, Alan, or not? No.
I literally caught the last couple of minutes of FP3.
The ones he'd been red flagged after Perez's crash.
Yeah, so after the second red, because it was 2 red flags, obviously.
Yeah.
And I literally caught it as the second red flag was ending. And you saw practically every car going out on track, just in full position, just to get that one quick lap in.
Yeah.
Because then obviously they're out on track and cross the line, then obviously they can do the practice stuff they do on the grid
Yeah.
ready.
But yet again, Max and the Red Bull wasn't on it. Albon, even in FP3, had seemed like he was bouncing back a bit. The Ferraris were outdone yet again by the McLaren. The McLarens were
that McLaren upgrade has worked well.
Mm.
Oh,
The car is looking capable. Red Bull are seriously. I think Red Bull still have the slide edge, but I think it's very slight at this point.
That's
well, that's it. Both McLarens are now running the same upgrade packages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is a phenomenal car. You know, they did it last year. They bought in the upgrades, and look and since they bought those upgrades in last year, it's just got from strength to strength to strength.
Yeah, the difference is this year they brought them in earlier and they've been even more effective.
Yeah, but I'd say the McLaren was looking good from Silverstone last year.
It was. The trouble is, by the time it was looking good, I think the Red Bulls already had such a stranglehold on things.
Yeah.
Whereas this year they've really got the opportunity to maybe cause an upset.
Yes, but for people to be like, well, Red Bull are struggling this year. Well, of course they're struggling this year. Red Bull don't have as much wind tunnel time this year.
And also, define struggling when they're still clearly in front.
Well, I would say Red Bull are struggling. I mean, I'll get on to that part of the struggle, but
I mean, I tell you what, if I can be in a position where I'm struggling while 50 points clear of the guy in second place, I'll take that struggle any day of the week.
yeah, but that's down. Some of that will be down to the driver.
Oh, 100%.
Because
Max is, I'm forgetting about 50 points clear of Leclerc, so if struggling is only 50 points ahead, then by God, bring on the struggle.
yeah, but Leclerc only got that because of the position he finished. Perez needs to up his game.
Yeah, Perez had a bit of a non-weekend, didn't he?
Yeah. And that's the problem. Perez can't afford to really relax at this moment. You know what I mean? He can't.
Yeah.
Because if he has more bad performances, that it could be his seat gone, literally gone.
I would question who too, but yeah, you never know what Red Bull have thinking and waiting in the wings, do you?
No. But you
insert Conor Moore's Danny impression here.
Yeah.
Just a laugh.
But like I said, even if we went to that, Ricardo won't go back. Ricardo's reserve, but no, I couldn't see him back in the second car. There's no point. If Danny Ricciardo can't perform in the junior sister team or whatever the freaking hell it is, what chance has he got back in that main car?
And that's good for a Danny Rick fan.
Yep.
You know, it's, as you say, at the moment, Yuki's probably the stronger of the two options right now.
Yeah.
But I couldn't even see Yuki in that main car.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's the
Not
point
right now.
And I don't know if you say Buemi's the reserve. Do you like?
Buemi's the development driver.
He's probably a bit on the older side now. God, he was in F1 a lot of years ago.
At least he was Formula E, Sebastian Buemi.
He was in F1.
Yeah, I know he was, but he was also...
He was back in F1 in the days when Red Bull had Sebastian Buemi and Sebastian Vettel, or was it Sebastian Loeb and Sebastian Ogier in rallying?
Yeah.
It was like if you wanted to drive for Red Bull, you'd change your freaking name. Sebastian Loeb, there's a name that people would have heard for a while.
Yeah, but wasn't Loeb like Richard Burns, Colin McRae era?
He was slightly after.
Yeah.
Because Loeb is still, I think he's still the most successful. There's a whole separate podcast there. I think he's still the most successful rally driver of all time.
Yeah, but he was Citroen, wasn't he?
Citroen, yeah, but he was Red Bull.
I say Loeb came in towards the end.
He may have just seen the end of the
Burns era sort of thing.
The Burns, Colin McRae era sort of thing, but he definitely was later.
Yeah.
Because it was when rallying sort of fell away, shall we say?
Yeah.
You know, you lost Subaru, you lost Mitsubishi.
But that's a separate...
9 World Rally Championships.
Who?
Between 2004 and 2012, Loeb.
Anyways, let's...
Holding topic.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, off topic, slightly.
Blue wants to tell... Which one of you want to take the lead on qualifying? Because I don't.
The only thing I have to mention is obviously Alonso binning the car at the end of practice 3 obviously didn't do him any favours.
Yeah.
No.
Hulkenberg was on one big style.
Yeah.
What gives you that?
Perez missing Q3 was a little bit of a shot himself in the foot there.
Yeah, but I kind of wonder if the whole Perez missing Q3 was down to the fact that when they sent him.
So the reason why he didn't do as well in Q2 was they stuck him on a brand new set of softs, and he was a bit shocked with the pace and everything else with them, and it unsettled him. That's why he lost time. I'm just going by what he said.
Because obviously Logan Sargent yet again didn't get out of qualifying. He technically, according to the results page, somebody will need to fill me in because I can't remember why. He's down as an unclassified.
His lap time got deleted, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
Ah, right, okay.
Because technically Alonso should have been last, but then Sargent's time got deleted.
Ah, okay.
Obviously, probably for track limits.
You know, Sauber need to do something a bit more serious.
Sauber improving, let's be honest. They're better than they were at the start of the season with their, 40-second pit stops.
Yeah, but I don't...
But the thing is, you've got to wonder what's that team going through right now? Because obviously we already know he's Audi next year. We know Hulkenberg's in. I don't know if we know who he's replacing yet or not.
No, we don't.
And the trouble is, after the response Joe got at China, I can see them wanting to keep him on. So that leaves Bottas looking like the
Well, the problem is, yet again, where's Bottas going to go?
Sports car somewhere. I don't think he'd get another. I think that'd be his end of his F1 career, if I'm honest.
To be honest, it's going to come as a shock. Boot Stroll out the Aston Martin, stick Bottas in, keep him in. Put him alongside Alonso.
Bob Boots Sargent out the Williams and stick him back in there.
Well, yeah.
Don't forget he started his career at Williams.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's just...
But Bottas has got the experience alongside Albon.
Oh, yeah.
And that, to be honest, that actually wouldn't be a bad one lineup.
Albon and Bottas.
Yeah.
If you're listening, James Rouse, hit us up. We'll act as brokers. We won't charge you a lot. Act as broker for that deal.
But see, the thing is, it's like, okay, Alonso didn't have a great...
You might be back to Valtteri, James.
Yeah. I mean, Alonso had a shocker. Obviously...
Alonso, I think it was just purely because they didn't get the practice. With losing basically all of practice 3 and not getting the car, I think the car was ready quite late. Then again, was it not the start of qualifying where both Williams had the floors off?
Yeah, I think so.
Now, they obviously managed to get them back together. Well,
but, Haas yet again managed to get one car through to Q3.
I think it's a real tale of two halves with Haas at the moment.
Yeah. Hulkenberg just seems to outperform K-Mag, but he's...
Yeah.
The problem is...
K-Mag's good when you need a mobile roadblock, though.
Yeah. Mercedes didn't have a bad qualifying. Yuki, yet again, outperformed Danny Rick. Okay, Danny Rick was what?
Danny Rick was ninth.
Ninth?
Yeah. Yuki was 7th.
That wasn't bad for Danny Rick, but wasn't stellar.
Not where I think people were expecting him to be when he came back into that car.
Yeah, well...
Certainly, if Yuki's showing what the car's capable of, you'd expect Danny Rick to be at least on par with him, if not
better.
Slightly ahead.
Yeah. I mean... Go on.
Obviously, Max got pole with that toe in Q3.
Yeah, you got to be in it to win it. I mean, fair play to him for doing it.
Yeah,
yeah, well, that was it though. They said, as he said though, they were towing each other.
Yeah.
He they were just returning the favour.
He just returned the favour.
Yeah. Because without that tow, Oscar actually had the fastest lap.
Yeah. But then got a penalty anyway, so.
Yeah.
Which was it? Problem is, was that penalty justified?
It's nip and tuck it. The problem I have is, where was he supposed to go?
Exactly.
At the point where he impeded K-Mag, now I'm not saying he didn't, but short of chucking the car into the gravel trap to get out of the way.
Because he wasn't on one of the chicanes.
He was on through Tamburello, wasn't he? It was literally one of the first set. Either Tamburello or Villeneuve.
So where the hell was he supposed to go?
That's the point I'm trying to make. Like I say, by the definition of the rules, yes, he probably did impede. However, my counter argument is, he can't pick the car up and put it in his pocket. What do you expect him to do with it?
If he'd gone off track, a yellow flag would have come out. Therefore, it would have had to, they would have had to slow down anyway. So it's just.
I don't know if this rule needs some looking at.
Yeah, there was no way. You're on a corner. Where are you supposed to put the car?
Yeah.
Well, you were on a chicane.
And
basically.
It's a narrow track as it is.
Yeah.
we know it's very narrow. There is nowhere to position that car properly to let a faster car behind you.
I mean, I guess in theory you should have back if you knew he was coming back off before the corner, but that's not practical.
No.
But the problem is Oscar was already in mid corner. He was coming out of the corner.
That's the point we're trying to make. I personally think it was a harsh decision.
I just think, as usual, Stewart's been a little bit inconsistent, but...
Oh, here we are, the bit where Chris disagrees with the stewards. We've never heard that before on this podcast, folks.
But
when you got something like that, if you take a look, I mean, obviously, I'll go back to FP3 at the end of the FP3, where it was Oscar, I think it was Sainz, were impeded on the last corner. And that was actually a worst area.
Yeah, was it at least 2 or 3 times through practicing I watched Hamilton just wander around the track like he was trying to look somewhere to have a picnic?
That last corner, it's a quick corner. You cannot be going slow. And when you've got 2 cars approaching you for speed, you've got to move out of the way. But there was nothing. Oscar near enough took his front wing off, to try and get past the car. Then he got forced out. But nothing was done about that.
Yeah, but yet again, it's, there's all the commotion with the pit lane and trying to build all this gap and all this bollocks again, and,
Oh, yeah, the car's trundling down the pit lane at walking pace.
Yeah, they just, they seem to bring these rules in. It's like, well, obviously, this weekend, because obviously, you guys know the time of recording, we actually have another race weekend coming up.
Yeah, but, well, we don't. We have a procession weekend. I struggle to call Monaco a race these days.
Yeah, I don't understand why that's being kept on.
I'd make it a non-championship event. Make it a weekend festival. We'll make it non-championship if you ask me.
Yuki's going to surprise everybody and overtaking us places you do not expect it.
No, the 2 Alpines are going to do a full lap side by side, including the very swimming pool complex. That'll be the bit to watch.
Leclerc's going to put it on pole again, and then he end up spinning it and causing a red flag.
And then do a Schumacher. Get it on pole position, then stop qualifying.
Leclerc did though, didn't he?
Yeah.
And it's like...
This is one thing, if he does, he can just go back up to his flat and watch the race from there, I guess. Do a Kimmy and get back on his boat.
But, just... The Ferraris were where I expect. I think Ferrari are a little bit shitting themselves with McLaren, if I'm honest.
Oh, they've got. Let's be honest, if I had to pick the car, I'd say the McLaren's the slightly quicker one at the moment.
Yeah.
They've got an actual genuine rival now. Like I say, I still personally think Red Bull have that little bit of an advantage over the 2 of them, but not by as much as it was.
Don't think Mercedes are very happy that the fact that their customer car is probably wiping the floor with them right now. Which, honestly,
good to see. It's an old name, is McLaren. It's good to see them.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of time and effort put into that team by Zach and company over the last 2 or 3 years, and it's good to see it paying off.
Williams didn't have a great quali.
Williams had a great weekend.
Alpine had a better one, but
Alpine have come on leaps and bounds from where they were at the start of the season.
Oh yeah,
you think Alpine were basically right at the very back of the grid.
Yeah, so they've definitely improved on that. As you say, there's definitely more still to do, but
both cars make it through to Q2. Which is a massive improvement for them.
Oh yeah, they were just about the slowest car on the grid when we set off this season.
Yeah. So-
Yeah, the Saubers seem to be still lunging. I mean, somebody's got to be last.
Yeah.
That's just the crux of the matter. And, usually it's Logan Sargent, let's be fair.
So
Well,
obviously,
he was last.
I'm obviously looking on towards the starting grid side of things. Obviously, the notes were underneath. Were just basically they were obviously Piastri handed penalised 3 places for impeding another driver during qualifying. Sargent failed to set a time within Q1 100%.
107%.
107% requirement. Race stewards' discretion. And why is it down to the stewards?
Well, what it is, that 107% rule is an old rule.
Oh,
and I mean
no,
an
it
old
is.
rule.
I know it's in the
And
race.
basically, it's to stop somebody putting a car out that's so ridiculously slow. It's just going to be a mobile chicane. Now, I don't think any team's ever been refused access. It's like a formality thing these days.
Mm.
That if a car doesn't set a time within that rule, it has to be approved to race. And unless the stewards had such big concerns that the car was that slow, like I said, I don't think anyone's ever been denied. I mean, feel free somebody to prove me wrong. But
But I mean, just quickly, obviously, this is a little bit off topic. Obviously, Indy qualifying, I watched. They qualifying's really weird in IndyCar because they do 4 laps. It's done by average speed, and it takes like 5 hours. No shit.
yeah, but that's Americans for
Yes.
you, isn't it?
They send the cars out one by one. If after 2 laps, or no, if after the 3rd lap, the race director has control and will wave that car off if they haven't improved.
No,
Yeah,
we don't want rules like that in F1.
No, but you can go back to some of the original qualifying in F1, where
When it was
over
that
a
solid hour
weekend-
session.
Yeah, it was you literally one car on track at a time, and it was out lap, time lap, in lap.
Yeah.
I can't remember those. I remember the days when it was an hour solid session. You saw nobody for the first 45 minutes, unless it looked like it was going to rain.
It was before, obviously, they bought them ones in. The original.
I actually can't remember that far back. You are a little bit older than us too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was literally going out, and it was literally.
Was it in black and white at the time?
No, it was actually in colour. It was literally done over 2 sessions. And it was literally, you go out, you put in a lap time.
Yeah.
Then you go, once it's all done, you do whatever you need to do, then you go back out again. And then they take your time in, your best time from that is where you start from.
Now, personally, I wouldn't be against sort of like an average time thing becoming a part of it. That could be an interesting concept. I don't want this one car on the track at a time malarkey, because that, as you say, makes qualifying last the whole frigging afternoon.
Well, it would.
But imagine a system where you had to set a minimum of 3 laps in Q3, and it was your average time that set your grid position.
Yeah, but then they'd have to change all the tyre rules.
Yeah, well, that's what
Well, get rid of that tyre rule, because that tyre rule's been silly. I still don't quite understand what they've done with the tyre rules this year.
Well, tyre rule for the F1 sprint is, I think, the Q3
hard
mediums.
I still don't like they got rid of the having to start the race on your Q2 tyres. I like that rule.
Yeah.
Because that will give you a little bit of jeopardy, because did you start on a deliberately worse tyre or qualify on a deliberately not as good tyre to try and give yourself a better race tyre?
Mm. But obviously, obviously Alonso ended up at the bottom because of they modified his car, obviously, under the park.
I wasn't, to be honest, when the way qualifying finished, I could tell, I said, they're going to just pull that car out park for me.
Yeah.
Because it was so far off the pace, there's no way they were going to go into the race like that.
Hmm.
So I knew for a fact that they'd pull it out, they'd do a pit lane start, that at least they could try and do something with it.
Yeah.
But
Do you?
I mean, this is actually something I was going to kind of bring up. It kind of encompasses the whole weekend. Aston Martin brought a lot of upgrade parts to Imola.
Did it work?
It really didn't seem to do them any favours, did it?
No.
I'm not going to fully discount the fact that Alonso just had a bad weekend. Let's not fully.
No.
You know, he had some bad luck, but at the same time, it just didn't seem to be. If that's a sign of what this upgrade package is bringing, I think they need to be back looking at things.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's taken them in the direction they really need to go.
No. They were doing a lot better.
Like I say, part of it could be down to, say, Alonso's just not had a great weekend, which can happen.
Hmm.
But like I say, they just didn't seem to make any kind of jump forward. Which, like I say, if you take all the other teams who brought upgrades, Ferrari, McLaren, they don't seem to make a reasonable improvement out of it.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, you got to think that as much as I kind of don't think he should be there anymore, as Stroll was the only one to obviously secure points for Aston Martin this weekend.
And that was only 9th, which to us, I don't think is where they feel they should be.
No. You know, it was just like, why did they end up retiring Albon?
I think they hit the point where, because of everything that happened, because obviously he lost the lap because of the loose wheel. Allegedly, now, the wheel obviously never came off, and I was trying to look back at the replays, because to be honest, it looked like the left front wheel nut man doesn't actually tighten the wheel back up.
I think it was a right front. When they lowered it, you could see there was ever so slight, but it didn't look loose. It didn't.
Well, it obviously survived. It got around the lap, didn't it?
Yeah, and I think it was just Albon just didn't feel it was on properly. He felt something wasn't quite right, and that's why he then turned around and said the wheel's not on properly.
But obviously, by the time they'd done a slow lap, got back to the pits, they lost a lap. I think they did cop a fine for it, didn't they? Because releasing the car in unsafe state is pretty much a slam dunk fine these days.
Yeah.
He got a 10-second
penalty. I think the team gets a fine. I think they retired the car simply because they were going to be at the back anyway. They were that far off. There's no point risking, in a season that's got so many races and you've got so few engine components.
Yeah, I think he was losing power. I think during the
I don't know anything about this. You may have heard something that I missed.
He was losing power. He just had there was something wrong with the engine. It just didn't feel right, didn't feel comfortable. So that's why they did eventually retire the car, which was the safer option.
Like I say, personally, I just feel you hit the point where you're going to be last a lap down anyway. Why risk stacking it or blowing it up to gain nothing?
Well, that was it. He had 4 pit stops, I believe, in total.
Yeah, he had 4. I mean, he only did 51 laps.
And the trouble is one set of hard tyres was the set that had the problem, and he couldn't put them back on, could he? Once?
Yeah.
Because they had damaged the wheel, he didn't have a set.
So he lost the hard tyres, which were the ones that they all really wanted for this race.
Yeah.
You know, and obviously Logan Sargent didn't really shine himself in glory either, considering he was the only surviving Williams.
But at least he finished.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
And he finished last.
For a race that was 100% chance of a safety car, according to our esteemed commentator on his first time out, if you watch Sky. 100% chance of a safety car. Well, we're still waiting.
Yeah. I mean, the Formula 2 had a safety car, but...
It had quite a few, didn't it?
But, yeah, I expected some sort of safety car within him.
I expected somebody to end up in a gravel trap or a wall at some stage and to cause...
You expect it at the beginning. on that
Oh
track.
yeah, that's sort of turn. The first couple of runs through the first hairpin, through the chicane, yeah, you could imagine somebody tripping over somebody else very easily.
Yeah.
But they all went through quite nice.
Yeah.
They
I mean,
gave
at the
each other
start,
room.
if we're going to take a start, I mean, you go. I think was it Sainz having a crack at Norris but backed out of it,
Yeah.
and I think behind you had Piastri and it might be one of the Mercs. That's so much if I mentioned. Did you see that thing of Russell in that old Mercedes?
Yeah.
With the freaking flying helmet on.
Hmm.
God almighty.
Yeah, because he
Don't know
went. He went to pick up some award or something.
Yeah, just with like the old flying helmet on in that really old Mercedes. It was just one of the funniest. I don't know how they managed to. Of all the people to pick, though, him.
Yeah.
You know, Woody himself. So I can't not see that anymore.
Hmm. I mean, Alpine had a little bit of a better race. Nothing stellar.
Not really. No points.
I mean, Oscar got fed up of seeing the back of a Ferrari, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think Oscar was pretty fed up with Ferraris after Miami. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
I'm a Sainz fan, and that move at the end of Miami was not on.
I mean,
He freaking threw the car at him.
McLaren got their strategy right again.
Yep.
Yeah. They are nailing it right now. They're nailing it well.
Yeah.
But like I said, as I said earlier, I honestly believe Red Bull just had enough. Had enough just to keep.
Well,
I know the gap was closing at the end. I know the gap got to within a second.
zero.
But as the great Murray Walker used to say, catching is one thing, passing is a different level entirely.
Well, I'm gonna say Red Bull. See, you say Red Bull had it, yeah. Where was Perez? Where was Perez's pace?
All right, Max had it then if you want. But
Max had it. Perez. I don't know. Perez again. Just.
Well, that's it. They did a split strategy on the drive on them, though, didn't they, as well?
Well, Perez had the hards on. They were
Yeah.
banking for some form of safety car or something with
no,
Perez.
they weren't. No, they actually with Perez, the idea was the other way. They needed the not to be safe because they needed him to go as long as possible on that set of tyres. That was the thing. They needed that set of tyres to last.
But it didn't.
Because if they did a safety car too early, it would have totally knackered their plan.
Oh yeah, if it had been too early. But it didn't work. I mean, okay, you know.
Perez pitted on lap 37.
Yeah. That was
I think that was earlier than they really wanted to.
Yeah.
But I think he was just losing so much time and pace by that point that they had to do something.
I mean, I don't. Alonso had to pit on lap 7.
I think they hit the point where they were just trying anything, really.
You know, quite a lot of people were pitting really early on.
Yeah, but they were on softs.
Yeah, a couple of guys did start the race on softs, didn't they? I know Alonso was one, and there was one other out of memory.
I think it was Gasly started on softs.
Well, the thing is, Albon pitted on lap 8, Gasly pitted on lap 8, Bottas pitted lap 8, and then Albon had his second pit stop on lap 9.
Yeah, he decided he obviously liked somebody in the pit lane a lot and wanted to go and see him again.
Yeah. But then, you know, like you say, Alonso did 3 pit stops.
Yeah, one of them was just literally a
Lap
practice
50.
pit for him.
Well, one of them.
I think, yeah, they were at the point where they were just using the practice section because they were that far behind.
Yeah, lap 59. But Russell, I don't know. Russell was a bit grumbly as well.
And F1 driver grumbly, I don't believe it.
Oh, obviously, he did 2 stops.
Yeah, he did.
So he stopped on lap 21 and 52.
Was that an attempt at the end just to sneak fastest lap away with it? I think he got
Well,
it.
he did.
Yeah, he did get the fastest lap.
Yeah, as I did remember he got it. So, there's that extra point there. And I think if I remember right, he had such a big gap to the car behind.
Well, that was
yeah,
but I'm sure that was one to stop for Alonso as well. Was a plan to nick the fastest lap away from somebody.
Yeah, but he was below top 10, so he wouldn't have got the point for
Yeah,
it.
but that was the whole point. Because at
Yeah,
the
well, he got
time,
the-
I can't.
Unintended.
Alonso got the second fastest lap on lap 62.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But it's just, I don't know. It just was. The race just. It didn't feel.
It wasn't exciting, was it?
No.
After Miami, I think was a really good race. I'm afraid he just didn't deliver. Now, part of it is maybe the circuit design. Although I disagree with Karun. Don't start messing with that circuit. It's a classic.
Yeah, no, don't.
But
I know what you're saying.
maybe the circuit design unfortunately didn't lend itself as well as the likes of Miami does.
No, I mean they've always said though Imola is a hard one to overtake. Even though we saw Yuki do a lovely overtake, that's Yuki. But it's just not a track you expect a lot of overtaking at.
No.
You know, it's a short DRS run.
It's only one DRS when it's
Only one.
not.
Yeah, and it's not exactly long.
No, but
Yeah.
they cut it back, didn't they?
Yeah.
But then I think a couple of drivers had said it needs to be longer. I think it was Oscar. I think Oscar said it needs to go back longer.
I just don't know because would you be getting too close into the corner if you went much longer?
Yeah.
That's the problem. And there's not really enough space. You can put a second one on the circuit because there's not really anywhere.
No, but you got to look at Monza. Look how close you can come into a corner off a DRS run at Monza.
Don't mention Monza to Alan, he'll start getting flashbacks.
We'll leave that there.
But yeah, like I said, it just seemed like there was quite a bit of tyre management going on as well.
Oh, it was one of those races that was won in the slowest possible time.
Yeah.
You know, which, whether you like it or not, unfortunately, is part of what F1 is these days.
So, David, without looking, and Alan don't say anything, what was Norris's end time, would you say? How many,
Well, F1 races
how
were
many
about-
seconds? What was the gap between Max and Norris at the end?
It was about 7/10, wasn't it?
It was like 0.725 was the gap
So 7/10.
at the end.
Thing is,
I
even though
think-
Norris said he did 1 or 2 more laps and he would have had him.
Yeah.
On that track, possibly, but as we said, it's not the easiest track to overtake.
Like I say, I think Red Bull will have had just if he'd have got, because he didn't get to within DRS range until the final lap. I think if he'd have been getting closer sooner, I think Red Bull would have had a couple of engine modes just to.
No,
Thing is,
Norris did have it a couple of times before the end, but because he was running wide, he ran wide a couple of times.
It lost him.
It lost him.
Hmm.
Just that little fraction. Otherwise, I think if he hadn't gone wide on 2 of the laps, it would be a lot closer.
Oh, there's been a battle going on.
You know, but you saw that time start crumbling down.
But I
I
think
mean, at one point, the Ferrari was catching Norris. Leclerc was catching Norris at one point.
Yeah.
but then Norris just dropped him.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I think Ferrari are worried about McLaren.
I don't think they need to be worried. I think they're already here. I don't think you should be worried about them turning up. I think they're knocking on the door.
But the problem is, can McLaren mathematically overtake Ferrari in the Construction Championship?
Of course they can. We're like 7 races in.
Yes, but but Ferrari's on 212, McLaren's on 154 at the moment.
And there's like 18 races left.
Well, we know that. But if
mathematically they can do it,
mathematically where we stand right now, Sauber can overtake Red Bull. Mathematically, it is possible. That doesn't mean it's going to happen, but way too early to be drawing those kind of conclusions out of the championship.
No, but
what you got to think of is, can McLaren finish within the top 3 of constructors? Yes,
easy.
Are they going to take the fight for
third? Unless Mercedes bring a really good upgrade package, I don't think Mercedes is third.
Yeah, I mean, can McLaren take the fight to Red Bull? Yes, they can.
I think the question is, would McLaren? I think it's Red Bull's season to lose. I honestly do. But the question is, would McLaren finish second or third? That's the battle. I think they're definitely in that top 3.
Yeah.
No questions asked. It's which one of those positions would they occupy?
I mean, I'd love to see another Norris win.
I think we'll get it. I honestly
we'll get it at some point.
Can he win at Silverstone?
Oh, that'd be the one, wouldn't it?
That would be the one.
I mean, did you on American Soldiers, which Zach was quite pleased about?
Yeah.
Well, even Max knows Norris will get another win at some point.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, you see them in the cool-down room together.
I missed that bit.
And they were talking, because obviously after the first set of pits, obviously Hamilton was second at the time, and obviously he went off. It was a gravel trap, and literally Norris said he was hoping it was Max. He openly admitted it to Max. I thought it was you, because they didn't actually know who went off until they saw that replay.
Yeah.
And what did Max say?
Max didn't know who it was, and it was like, I think Max was hoping it was somebody else that went off. I can't remember what Max said. She said, but Nando's going to him. I thought it was you. I was hoping it was you. Joking about it. And yes, they're race drivers. Yes, they're there to battle each other.
Yeah, but they get on really well off track.
But you see the build-up before the race. I mean, I think Lando was having an interview, and Max was walking behind and kicks him. But they're having a laugh.
Yeah.
They'll meet up off track. They go golfing. Well, as Max said, he wouldn't. He doesn't play golf. He'll be Lando's caddy.
Hmm.
Yeah. But there is that friendship on the track.
Yeah.
Especially with a lot of the youngsters.
Well, a lot of them have, the problem is, you don't know how much of a friendship there is between the likes of Leclerc and Max. Because of the karting days.
I think they're all, that's it, they've all grown up together, basically.
Yeah.
George,
they've all come through the sort of ranks together.
I think it's George, Max, Leclerc, Albon.
Yeah.
Lando.
Albon's a bit younger. Albon's a few years behind, I think.
I think I saw a picture of Max. I think I saw a picture of Max, Lando, George, and that lot together when they were karting.
But the point stands that these guys, basically since they were kids, have been together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even across teams, there's still friendships there, and okay, when the helmet goes on, that all gets put to one side. But it's I think the days of drivers hating each other, like the Prost Senna days, I think have gone.
Or if you David Coulthard,
Saved.
or if you David Coulthard and Michael Schumacher.
That was only after one race.
But still.
You know, when Michael Schumacher decided to try and take a Scott on, which is always an interesting idea. Especially a Scott still wearing a crash helmet.
Hmm.
But yeah, as we said, the race wasn't exciting.
No, it wasn't.
It unfortunately wasn't. And that's because somebody who's a fan of the circuit.
Yes, okay. Could have Lando got Max at the beginning? Possibly, but as Lando said, he nailed the start. It was just he got too much wheel spin afterwards.
Yeah.
The Red Bull's obviously very strong in what they call the second phase of the start.
Yeah. I mean, if
Because
you look
once
at
he's
the
got
way
through that initial start, it then just took off.
Yeah, if you look at the way in which Max had positioned his car at such an angle
But that.
on the grid.
Yeah, but that's the
Because
usual
obviously-
trick.
Yeah, but the side that Max was on isn't the ideal side, as they say.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's a dirty side, as they call it. Max had that car at such an angle. If he hadn't stopped where he was, he could have been slightly over his line. But yeah, Lando nailed the start. It was just that he got the start right, but it was just too much wheel spin after that initial get-go. And that's what cost him. Otherwise, I reckon Lando would have had him, and we could have had a completely different race.
Possibly, yeah.
Even with Piastri being demoted, I think that could have been a different race. Could you have had a double podium for McLaren?
That's the
Maybe.
next bit. If they've had the win, that's what they want next. A 1-2 would be pretty amazing.
Yeah. But obviously, I am going to move on to the bit that I'm not looking forward to be honest.
Would that be the fantasy?
Yeah.
Don't know why he's not looking forward to it. He would say part in it.
I've got obviously the results up just from Imola.
Yeah, so have I.
I did all right. That's what I'm saying.
We got,
And I still scored more points than Chris, so
Yes.
I'm always going to take that as a good.
but we all got pipped by Ryan.
Yes.
Yeah, for all us calling Ryan's team out in the first couple of
Yeah.
times he was in it.
I mean, yeah, okay,
I mean, Alan, he pipped you by 1 point.
I know. Absolutely gutting.
So why did what actually got?
If you look at compared to the teams,
Oh,
obviously Brian had
it
negative,
was
because he's
the
got
Albon and
the
Ricardo.
yeah, he got negative on Albon and Ricardo, but if you look at his structures, it's McLaren and Red Bull, so therefore the points are there.
Yeah.
RB.
Yeah, RB.
Saying that you had no negatives, which is a good.
That's the thing. You didn't have any negatives. But I think that the thing that helped, obviously, the thing that helped Ryan out there was Oscar.
McLaren.
You think he's got
Oscar and McLaren.
yeah? That's a lot of points. That's 64 points there just on McLaren alone.
Yeah.
12 points for RB.
Yeah.
Then he's obviously got 74 points for Lando and 24 for Oscar.
But it was and if Alonso would have done better for you, if had have done better, I think you'd beat him there. You'd have been on top.
Yeah.
I mean, let's have a look at David. Yeah.
David had negatives.
Albon, Ricardo, Williams, and
Yeah.
And Williams.
I had an absolute shocker.
You had Albon, Ricardo, and Williams.
And Williams.
Williams, the same as me.
Yeah.
So what was the difference for me then? Ferrari, wasn't it? Ferrari versus your RB.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When if you take the all races total, I'm still ahead.
Oh yeah, you take the all
Oh,
races.
This
yeah.
is part of it.
Yeah.
You're
I'm slowly
ahead.
gaining on Chris.
Yeah, I know. That's what I mean. Alan is actually like slowly gaining.
Well, I'm going to allow you two to fight over second. I don't mind that.
Yeah, I want to try catch David, but
I'm about 50 points behind you.
I think I'm about 430 ahead. I think I did the maths at.
and I mean, yeah, that's it. Definitely a different season.
Was it the end of the season when Ryan's beaten us both? We've beaten us all.
Yeah.
I mean, we're gonna have to have something spectacular to happen to David at the
The
moment.
trouble is, I've said to you before, we have so many crosses in our teams, though.
Yeah, I know.
It's very unlikely that something really bad could happen to me that wouldn't also catch you in the crossfire.
Well, that's it. If you know, you think Max, if Max doesn't have the race that he has, you know, if he has a couple of DNS and things like that, that's your points gone.
Yep.
Yeah, but that's both. What I'm saying is
Good.
that's both of us.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's the point I'm trying to make is that Chris is saying about trying to catch me. The trouble is our teams are that well intertwined
Yeah.
that there's not really the possibility for me to have a big disaster that wouldn't also
Hurt
affect
me.
him. I mean, even with you, Alan, you've got a. Yeah, you see, you've got a very different. I don't think we have a single crossover, do we?
Don't think we do.
No, we don't.
No.
So that's what I mean. You're in a better position really because if something bad happens, I don't know. Say Verstappen crashed into Piastri and took Albon with him.
Well, that's
You know, that'd be me decimated.
Well, that would be me buggered. I know.
But for Alan, there's the potential there because he's not got the crossover that those two have.
No.
As long as Yuki and K-Mag still do well.
But yeah, no.
I mean, Haas is a bold choice. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Got to be in it to win it.
Well, correct. Yeah, I'm not arguing with you. I mean, after last season where Chris ran away with it, I'm just glad we're giving him some competition this year.
Well, there is that.
Thing is, as we said, you know, we're still early on in the season.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's way too. We can't be doing any big conclusions yet. It's way too early.
Yeah.
It's all in good fun.
It is. Okay, but have you guys got any closing thoughts at all?
No, it was just one of them races. It wasn't nothing special.
A bit like this weekend's going to be.
I'm fed up too.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I hope
Unfortunately, I don't hold out.
I'm hoping for a bit of rain.
I don't hold out a lot of hope. I'm going to go. Yeah, that could make things interesting.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, okay, so we've got Monaco coming up, obviously, this weekend. But don't forget, obviously, usual time for this podcast release will be 3 o'clock on Tuesday. I am so confused when I put these out now.
It's not like you're the guy who does the schedule on this, you know.
I know. It's usually a Tuesday. I can never remember. But anyways. Because it's double race weekend, that's the thing. Usually I have
Hey,
time.
we've got that triple header coming before too
Oh,
long.
Christ. Don't remind me. Yeah, we're going to end this one here. Obviously, thank you to everybody that's listened. Obviously, thank you to Alan and Alan. I'll go the other way. Thank you to David and Alan for joining me.
Welcome.
No problem. It's been a pleasure. And thank you to Alan for joining us. Good to have him back in things again.
I tried.
You're trying. We'll give you that.
Yeah.
So obviously, don't forget, that you can get this podcast on Spotify, Amazon, on the actual website itself. And we shall see you for Monaco. So until then.
Adios, amigos.
So long and thanks for all the fish.
Goodbye for now.